What advice do you have for people that struggle with porn addictions?
Well, first of all, there is hope. That's the most important thing. Don't ever become hopeless over it, because that will not get you anywhere. Your brain has to be engaged in order for you. It's like the Pool of Bethesda story, where the guy laid there for 37 years. I used to think, my gosh, that poor guy. But then I counted my own history of my addiction, and it turned out to be 46 years for me. So I said, oh man, he was better than I was at getting the message. But the point is that there's always hope, and God is there, but you have to make a decision that you want to help and that you want to do the healing. And don't ever let anything be your get out of jail free card or any kind of excuses for what you're doing. Grab it and pursue it, and you'll get there. You really will. And if you're fortunate enough to be in a married relationship, make sure that you keep that marriage relationship forefront as well. And trust your wife and do what God intended. Man should not live alone. Do it together as a couple as much as you can. I realize I caused so much pain and whatever in the marriage, but she was strong and faithful, and together, the together part of it, that you're not isolated, you're working together. That's the real encouragement that I have for people.
And one of the things that we recognize is, the culture out there is trying to determine what is this problem that's so pervasive. Some call it porn addiction, sex addiction. Some want to call it compulsive use, some just sexual sin. It doesn't matter what title it has. But I think more importantly than asking, why this addiction or compulsion or whatever you call it, why that, is to ask why the pain. Because the majority of people that are caught up in unhealthy sexual behaviors, they're doing it to numb themselves. They're doing it in a way to heal that hurt, that isolation feeling, that lack of control feeling. And so we really need to look deeper into what is causing all this pain. And for us, our background is Bruce taught chemistry at the college level for many years, and I worked for the Catholic Church. And so the combination of, faith and science together is what we find in this program that is called Reclaim Sexual Health, the Catholic version of this now. And it is really powerful to look at that and to say that in the experiences that people have in childhood, they call them adverse childhood experiences, many of those damage or destroy part of our autonomic nervous system. And that conditions us to fall into any kind of addictive behaviors.
Exactly. That system puts you kind of think of the word autonomic as almost as automatic. It almost sounds like the same word. What it does is it puts your system into the ability to fight, flight, or freeze. And normally your executive center of your brain, your frontal cortex, has control over that and can take a look at that and say, okay, this is something I should or shouldn't do, or something I should or shouldn't react to. But when you damage that system, that nervous system, by continual use of something like the pornography or any kind of those unhealthy behaviors, what happens is there's a short circuit that develops, and you no longer go to your brain's executive center to check on what's moral, what's right, what do I want to do. You just basically live out of your subconscious level. You live out of your gut feelings that are down there, and that's how people get railroaded, and they start doing things they never dreamed they would do. And the only way to counteract that is that you have to redirect your brain to think again, to start controlling up on top. And that was the part that was fascinating for me. That's why I finally was able to use Reclaim to start healing, was because of my background in the chemistry and whatever. I understood, hey, there's really something going on here. And because there's something going on, there is a solution for it. And if I follow the prescription for the solution, I'll get to where I need to go. And that's what everybody else needs to understand about this as well.
It used to be for many years, our society, used the idea if we just, criminalize some of this behavior, if people see how evil and awful it is, if we punish them, that will help. Well, that hasn't worked. And a lot of the things were based off of studies that were done many years ago with rats, and the idea that if they were given water, they were given drug-laced water, they would always pick that drug-laced water. Well, there was a gentleman who made the observation that something was wrong with this. And so instead of doing this in these critters and these isolated cages, he created something that's now called the Rat Park Study. So do you want to explain that a little, Bruce?
The Rat Park Study was creating an ideal environment for rats. It had a nice habitat. It had all of the different kinds of toys and things they could ever figure out what to do to play with, and a bunch of other rats. They were all together in a big community. And it was the community that he set up that he wanted to observe and see, okay, what's going to happen now in a social culture rather than an isolated culture. And what he found is that, yeah, sometimes the rats would go over and they would taste the cocaine water, give it a slip or whatever, but most of the time they all were drinking the regular water, and none of them became compulsively addicted to go after the cocaine water every time.
So I think it's important for any addict that might be listening or someone who loves someone who's hooked on this is to say that really, too often we have thought that it would be sobriety is the opposite of addiction or compulsion, but that's not really it. The opposite is connection. The opposite is community. It's communion. It's being united and connected with others. And so looking at what is the pain behind this kind of behavior, how can we ease that pain in a healthy way, look at how can we help the people become more connected into community. And usually these adverse childhood experiences are keeping someone from feeling free enough to be vulnerable in a relationship or free enough to be authentic in a relationship. And in order to have true intimacy, those are the two things you need, authenticity and vulnerability. And so those are the things we would encourage either someone who's struggling with pornography or other unhealthy sexual behaviors or someone who loves a person who's doing that. We need to find a way to ease the pain and help them move into a healthier lifestyle.